If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
Welcome back. We're live at Padonia Station. It is our Michelob Ultra pre-NFL draft. We have a nice crowd here. Some good makes it noise. Eric DeCosta, Brian Billick are in the house. People are like, it's like you're a pin drop out here. It's like we're making the pick right now. We're on the clock. All right, Eric, I asked you a tough question before about who we're taking at 26. Let's go through Raven needs. I'm going to turn to NFL and Fox analyst Brian Billick to assess the Ravens' needs. Coach Billick, what are the Ravens' needs here on draft day?
We talked about it earlier on the show earlier today about one of the brilliant things that Ozzie does and Eric and the staff is that they do their things in free agency so that they don't have to make a pick on draft day. Whether it's bringing back a smart role, getting Foxworthy, you see Jason Brown go out, you see Matt Burke come in.
Well, certainly would have needed a cornerback, certainly would have needed a center,
correct.
Probably would have needed some linebacking. You know, there's all sorts of things there.
So, having done that, Eric, and you chip in on this, but doesn't that put you in a position, a very comfortable position, to not have to feel like I've got to take this position with the first or the second or the third round?
I think it does. I think, going into free agency, one of the things that Ozzie does very well is he has a list of things that he wants to address. And we see the big picture so that, okay, we need a tackle, we may need a corner, we may need a nickel, we may need a return man, a center, obviously. How many of those things, you can't fill them all, but how many of those things can you check off the list? And you look at all the available options, you get creative, Pat Boyardi, our cap guy, gets involved in the discussions, trying to figure out a way to make it work. Where can we pare some costs of some players? You maybe approach some players about restructuring their deals to free up some money. You're trying to do some different deals. You've got players that are free agents yourselves, whether it's Bart Scott, Ray Lewis, Jason Brown, guys like that. If you sign one guy, you probably can't sign the other guy. It's a big puzzle, but the more things you can check off the list, the more flexibility you have draft-wise and then post-draft. And that's really, I think, what smart teams do. And I give Ozzie a lot of credit. That's kind of always been the way that he's done things.
Well, Ozzie always likes to say in March or even early April at the Liars Luncheon, we could field the team right now and go play football. And we could legitimately, as the Ravens, field a team and go play football right now. As far as needs on draft day, Coach, what are you going to be talking about when the clock comes up and the Ravens are on the clock? What do you assess as Raven needs or areas where they would address the draft in the first round specifically?
Well, let's talk about what, and again, just my perception. It's great now because they got to kind of listen to me. They didn't listen to me when I was actually coaching there, but they got to listen to me now. The good thing is, again, you could take about anything. But obviously, as I size it up, you'd love to have probably a corner. You always like to come up with a corner. But a corner, depth at linebacker, you lose Bart Scott, Ray's obviously at that point in his career. Everybody's talking about the wide receiver although everybody recognizes too, and Eric, you can address that. Very rarely does a wide receiver, even in the first round, impact you the first year. So you could take a wide receiver at 26, and there's some options there I want to talk about in a minute. But the expectation that they're now all of a sudden going to be part of your rotation is probably unrealistic, isn't it?
The thing about, a couple things about receivers. I think, Coach, you could, talk about this too. Very seldom do you have a great receiver who doesn't have a great quarterback throwing the ball to him. So that, that's kind of one thing that hurts a lot of teams at the receiver position is if you don't have the quarterback, you're probably not going to have the receiver. But looking at it, one of the things we've done this year is look at the picks from 24 to 32 over the last 10 years. And we assigned a grade to each player selected. And we went back and looked at it positionally to see what positions you had the biggest, the highest success rate from 24 to 32 over the last 10 years. Interestingly enough, the position that had the lowest grade was receiver. There have been more busts between 24 and 32 over the last 10 years at the receiver position than any other position by far. It's not even close.
But wouldn't that be true at that position anywhere in the first round? Doesn't that typically?
I did a little homework on this myself a couple weeks ago because people were calling the show about wide receivers and they're bitching about Mark Clayton or Travis Taylor. But it's not just those two guys. It would even be Pat Johnson or DeVar Darling. But then you could go organization by organization. And Eric, you and I talked about this.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.